17 across. Impudent bladder.
What?
Impudent bladder. Gall, apparently. 4 words. 23.
4 words or 4 letters?
4 letters. 23. Red donkey fuel. What? It's carrot.
Carrot or orange?
I know. Perhaps. Well, you don't get red donkey. I'm not doing this. Let's do something else. Hello, Lisa.
Andrew.
What you got in your hand?
In my hand, well, on my lap actually, I've got the ambassadors of death.
Which is on. That was very good.
Yes.
Which is on tonight.
Yes.
So
we'll talk about that tomorrow.
So we'll talk about that tomorrow when you've seen it.
Yes.
But some curious people, and by golly, we know some curious people.
We do.
Have asked us how we do become to sitting on this sofa.
Can't you say it properly?
I did. Talking about the Doctor Who and his friends.
Yes.
And Rose is shutting the door on herself. Help out the cat, Lisa.
Excuse me.
Got out the cat who's incapable of opening a door these days.
See, I said mind your head. Let's just walk to work.
There we are, it's open. Right. She can go up if she chooses. But Lisa.
Yes.
How did you meet me?
How did I meet you? Well, initially it was through being a member of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society.
Now, I joined the DWAS in 1984, when all seemed rosy in the worlds of Doctor Who.
Okay.
But you must have joined a bit after that.
I joined in about 1990 or 1991.
Oh, so the show had actually been cancelled?
Yes. I joined it to find out, to engage more with Doctor Who fandom.
To engage.
Yes,
Well, I joined through... I'd heard about the DWAS in Doctor Who A Celebration, because there's a piece at the back about fan clubs. So there was the DWAS, the American one, I think the Canadian one, possibly the Australian one.
Yeah.
And the Italian one for some reason, which surprised me, but there you go.
Right.
And there was an advert in Doctor Who magazine in 1984. So I joined, I think the first edition of the newsletter Celestial Toy Room I got would have been May 84, roughly then. But you're, as you said, you were after the show had been cancelled. After the show had been
cancelled, yes. So in about 1990.
I was still a member then.
I started getting Doctor Who magazine.
Yes.
And there must have been a thing in Doctor Who, an advert or something in Doctor Who magazine about it, and I thought, oh, I'll join that and I joined the DWAS.
Why did you want to join the DWAS? Did you want to meet other fans? Or?
I don't know if I wanted to meet other fans, or I just wanted to know more about Doctor Who, more about what was going on with Doctor Who at that stage. And in 1991, after Graham Williams had sadly passed away,
that's right,
there was a little piece about Nick's tapezine.
You better explain. So our friend Nick Goodman
did a tapezine called
Rayface Shift. And that ran from 1989 for something like 14 issues.
Yes.
And although I didn't contribute, I don't think I did anything for the first edition, because that was only a 60-minute job.
Yeah.
I did something for virtually every issue after that. And issue 6 we made as a Graham Williams
tribute
special, and I did a piece on season 16 if Leela had still been in it,
which was really interesting.
Which was an unusual idea, you know. How would she react in those stories, and would it change the way the stories worked?
Yes.
I could probably do something quite interesting with that even now, so it's not a bad idea.
No.
But we'd also established that we were doing things that Doctor Who writers did as well as Doctor Who.
Yes.
So we'd done Blake's 7 for Robert Holmes, and I wanted to do Sapphire and Steel Story 5.
Yes, for Anthony Reid and
Don Horton.
Houghton.
Don Horton. Houghton, however you say it. Because it always struck me as odd that those two wrote together. Yes. Somebody that worked on early Pertwee and somebody that worked on mid to late Tom Baker.
Yes.
Quite interesting that they but that's a great Sapphire and Steel story, and I wanted to do something good for it.
Yes.
And I think the issue that sort of came out of it, that whole issue
was good.
of Ray Face Shift was quite a good one.
Yes.
Which is how you got to hear about it.
Yes. So I sent off for it.
So how did you? Yeah, but how? Because the way it worked, that you could get a review in Celestial Toy Room if you sent them a free copy. Mm-hmm. So it saved on advertising a bit because we had no money. It was cheap. But I was very impressed with what Nick was pulling together, and I was quite keen to get it a bit of publicity. Yes. So I sent in like some adverts for. I think DWB carried a couple of adverts for it, and as many issues as we could, we sent into Celestial Toy Room for a freebie. And that's
the one they picked.
Yeah.
To cover.
Yeah.
So I sent off for it, and I started corresponding with Nick after a while. Because
at this point you lived in
Essex.
Yes. And Nick was in Salisbury. So it's quite a distance. Yeah.
And the first time I met Nick was probably in about 1992. Mm-hmm. They went to a comic mart.
Oh, right. Okay.
He and
now, what's a comic mart?
A comic mart.
I never used to go to them.
It's a sort of odd thing where you go there and sometimes they'd have guests.
Yeah, so it's not really a convention, is it?
No, but mostly it was just people with tables of things to sell.
It's like a dealer's room,
like sort
basically.
of a big dealer's room.
Yeah.
And we'd go to these things and we'd sit in the cafe and be silly. And then Nick asked me in 1993, so it might have been 1993 I met him. Oh. I'd not known him that long. If I'd be in, what was that, 1992? Sutton Park Prison in the Sun.
1993, that is.
Yeah. Because somebody dropped out.
So what's that then?
That is a video or a film. It's not a film because it was made on video. Written by Nick and Paul Chandler, aka the Shy Yeti. And it was about this strange goings on.
So who did you play?
I played Bernie Auld.
Spelled?
Auld. Auldie.
All right.
And I was married to Paul.
Okay.
And I was supposed to drive, and I had to pretend to drive your car. So all I did was get in it and shut the door, and then we'd cut to the car driving.
Well, the thing was, we had a group of people making these films, and Nick didn't drive.
No. Paul didn't drive.
Yeah. I did.
Yes.
Well, I had to, really, because it was the only way to get to Salisbury, basically.
And Elaine drove.
Oh, Elaine did, yes.
And that was about it.
Yeah.
I think Gareth drove.
Possibly.
But I'm not sure he had a car at that point.
Because there's a later film, isn't there, where Andrew Candish has to pretend to own a car. And which one's that? That's Andy Ching's one, isn't it? Child of Anubis.
Child of Anubis,
And Andrew Candish has to pretend...
He's a policeman.
Yeah.
And he's standing by this car.
And then the owner of the car, there's an outtake where he comes up, gives Andrew Candish a funny look, gets in his car and drives off.
Andrew Candish shuffles away looking embarrassed.
It's very, very funny. But I have to ask, if some... well, I'm not going to say strange, but some bloke you don't know very well...
Yes.
Asks you to be in one of his films.
Yeah, I think I knew him. I obviously knew him well enough.
To trust.
Yeah, I'm sure it was 1992 when I first met him.
I don't know.
Because I know I got... Well, my dad, bless him, he's like, well, you be careful because, you don't know what he's going to be like. And Nick is the most inoffensive person ever. So...
beware of strange men.
Beware of strange, bouncy men.
Well, there is the story that it was filmed on... Pepperbox Hill and the surrounding area.
And he contacted the National Trust.
It's National Trust. So Nick, doing it the right way. Yeah. We emphasise it wasn't a film for profit. No. It was simply an amateur project.
An amateur project, yes.
The only people that ever saw it were the people that were in it, basically. But he wrote and asked permission to film. And the story goes that whoever it was at the National Trust office wrote back and said, yes, you may film on our land so long as you don't take your clothes off.
No.
Which does beg the question about
what happened.
What other films had been filmed.
Yeah. Were they letting Ken Russell film
surreptitiously up on Pepperbox Hill?
Yeah, Ken Russell goes out there and films a load of naked ladies.
But it was all done in about two days.
Yeah, we did it really quickly.
It was really fast turnaround, and it was if the first take worked,
that was it.
That's what we went with. Yeah.
I mean, there are numerous shots of. There was one particular bit where there had to be a gunshot, and there hadn't been a gunshot, And Elaine had to say...
Oh, Elaine had this wonderful woolen wig on. Yeah. Yellow wig.
And she had to say, gunshot. And I'm thinking it would be crooked, so she'd have to do it again.
Yeah, there's about 8 takes of that, isn't it?
And then there's one time where she'd obviously said it so many times, she was like, gunshot.
Oh, that wasn't very good. But my favourite outtake involving me is Nick's trying to line up the camera, and I'm sort of in the distance, and he says, Troby, you're too close to the sun. Now, that's a bad thing to say to somebody with a science background, because I just turned to him and said, Nick, I'm 93 million miles away from the sun. Now, you know, how far away from it do you want me to be?
Yeah.
I always thought that was funny.
Yes.
But that was simply the first of many things, because I think we... Yes, I mean, I must have met you the morning.
Yeah, we started doing that.
Because we were all in Nick's bedroom, and we were all getting ready, and as I said, you had to sort of pretend to drive my car by sort of getting behind it and doing...
Well, not even that, just getting in it and shutting the door, and then it goes cut, and you get in and drive it, and they just shoot it from the inside.
But didn't you and me end up having to carry Elaine at one point?
Yes.
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 And I'm not the strongest person in the world, and we just about managed it.
Yeah.
But
not that we hesitate to say, I'm not saying Elaine's heavy, because she's not.
But I'm just incapable of carrying anybody. Yes. I mean...
it's like the Nicola Bryant, Peter Davison thing.
I suffer with a bad back at the best of times. I mean, you know. No offence to Elaine, but and then I think that was it for the 1993, wasn't it? But then weren't there 2 films?
There were 2 films in 1994. Yes, there was An Evil Trophy.
I was the mayor in that or something.
Yes. I think you spent quite a lot of time in Elaine's mum and dad's back garden waiting for us to get there.
Oh, that's right. You were really delayed, and I had numerous cups of tea trying to make polite conversation with like people I hardly knew.
Yeah. And then we also did Tide of Freedom, the first attempt.
Because you filmed the majority of that. It must have been about August, but I remember I was quite unwell around that period, so I couldn't film my stuff till like September, October.
No, and there's a noticeable difference because it's sunny and then it's not sunny, and it's sunny and it's not sunny.
But again, you did films that I wasn't in.
And you did films that I wasn't in.
Yeah, but there's the one... What's the one with the budgie in?
Oh, that's... Old School Lie.
Old School Lie, because you and who was it? Who had the budgie?
It was Andy's parents, Andy's mum, I think.
Yeah, but you were in the scene with somebody, weren't
Peter
you?
Dickinson.
Peter Dickinson.
Yeah.
Not the one from...
not the Changes one.
From the Changes, but the other one. But there was this budgie.
And there was a bit of a gap. So
and you filmed your bits, and he filmed his bits.
Yes, and unfortunately, in between, the budgie died.
So you cut to him, and there's a budgie tweeting in the background.
No, it cut to me.
Oh, you? All right.
And there's a budgie tweeting, and then when it cuts to him...
Supposedly in the same room, there's no budgie.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, all you do is just lay a track over it, wouldn't you?
Well,
so...
you just record the budgie, Now, what else one? What's the one in London? The one where you've got the knife in your boot? What was that one?
God, Run Faster Than the World.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that was an experience.
That was you outside.
Well, I didn't even get to be outside New Scotland Yard. I was just down the road outside a building, surrounded by bags, with all these policemen walking past me, giving me a suspicious look.
Because you had about a dozen bags. Of varying
I was guarding the bags.
And it did look like you were up to something no good.
Especially as every time they walked past, I'd smile at them in the hope that they wouldn't
Because the whole point of that scene was to get the shot of the revolving New Scotland Yard sign with who was it in front of it?
Evelyn and Martin.
Yes.
And it was quite difficult because Evelyn's about my height.
So you had to jack the camera down low to get the
it's basically just Nick sitting on the floor, filming upwards to get the sign, and Nick is a perfectionist.
Yeah. But then we did a Blake 7 thing, didn't we?
Which we never finished.
Because you wrote a sort of...
I wrote a Blake 7.
It wasn't really a spoof, was it? It was
it was fairly serious.
It was like what happened after the final episode of Blake or something. And
and it involved cloning and all sorts of nonsense.
But we did a fair bit of work on that.
But it never got finished.
Yeah. I just don't think it ever got edited. That was the thing, because editing in those days was
painful.
Was painful. I hate editing now, but video editing in those days really was, a pain.
Yes.
So yeah, I think we recorded everything. But then we went to. Was it 1997?
Mm-hmm.
The first
Panopticon.
well, not the first Panopticon, but the first
Panopticon
Panopticon that we went to.
Yes.
Which was in Coventry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coventry.
And that was interesting because I'd never been to Coventry. I mean, I make no secret that I'm not a good traveller at the best of times. But so the idea, and I have to admit, the idea of going off to Coventry with a lady was quite scary. It was. I was quite nervous.
Aww.
Because you sort of asked me whether I wanted to go, didn't you? So you dragged me.
I dragged you to Coventry.
To Coventry.
Yeah, sorry.
But what was it you said? That was the weekend we spent like best part of 2 days just applauding stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, in obviously because when you go to panels, at the end of the panel you applaud whoever the guest is. And we went to the cinema on the Sunday night.
Well, they'd also had the video of the few doctors that they'd made, didn't they? That was where we first
time,
which was a brilliant, funny spoof video where it's like the idea being like the BBC brings back Doctor Who as a sort of sporting thing, doesn't it? So like there's the egg and spoon race with the Cyberman and Peter Cushing.
Yes.
And Colin Baker doing an eating competition, and then was it Tom Baker doing a drinking
competition?
And it's a brilliant little piece, and I don't think it's available on DVD, which is a shame because it's even got John Nathan Turner and Gary Downey in it.
Yeah.
Because you've got the seal of Rassilon, which is a seal.
Yes.
And sort of JNT, and it's all done like sort of with music and sort of sound effects. There's no dialogue for the most part of it. There's some dialogue at the start because you've got like sort of Peter Miles and stuff, not with his red bean.
Not with his red bean. No.
But we spent 2 days applauding. Then we went to the cinema.
Yes.
Now is that the cinema we went to where there were two tramps fighting in the skip?
I think separate skips.
Oh, were they
had
separate?
A skip each, and they were throwing bottles at each other, and you could just hear these bottles crashing, and we sort of scurried past as fast as we could. Yeah. I'm so, if you come from Coventry, I'm sure it's a lovely place, but it was a very strange weekend.
Yeah. What film did we go and see?
We went to see My Best Friend's Wedding, I think. Which is a rom-com with Julia Roberts in. I think it was the only thing on there that wasn't like an action film.
All right, okay.
So it was all right. It's got Rupert Everett in it.
But we almost applauded as the end titles came up, didn't we? Yeah. Oh no, we're not in the thing anymore.
They did do that when we went to see the King's Speech, didn't they? The first time we went to see a King's Speech, the audience applauded at the end.
Oh, blimey.
Yes.
Very polite.
I'm sure Colin Firth would be thrilled to know that they applauded him because he was the king.
Yeah. But anyway, we can talk about some more convention memories at some point. But there we are. That's sort of a vague sort of potted history of.
And we used to go to museums and things.
Museums. Well, we can talk about
natural history and stuff
in a later thing. But yes, so tonight is the Ambassadors of Death and Inferno.
I love Inferno.
Two very solid stories indeed.
That's one of my favourite story of season 7.
But once you've seen them, we'll talk about them too. So we'll say goodnight, and I'm going to head for the bath in a minute.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay.
I've got to do the ironing.
We won't video that.
No.
Bye-bye.
Bye.